am here back with Lisa, Raw Food Romance, once a month healthy marriage. And today's topic is nutrition. And we wanted to focus especially on raw vegan nutrition. Be, uh, but before we go into details of that, I wanted to recap of what we discussed about last time, which was bone density on healthy marriage. And I had this. This is the weighted thing that you can put around the wrist or on your ankle. And I have been doing that, inspired by you.
Mhm.
It's such an, it's free once you buy this. This is so, I think I got it on a dollar shop. You can buy everything on a dollar shop. And it's excellent. Like
Mhm.
your result was amazing on DEXA scan. I also had DEXA scan recently and it was perfect. I was so happy because I'm now taking a pill to stop my
Mm.
cycle because it was just going crazy. And that pill usually would affect the bone density. And I
Right.
have done 2 cycles, so I was expecting it could go a bit lower, but
Mhm.
mine was perfect. And this was before I used this weighted thing.
Mhm.
So I was, yeah, I can't wait. I think I'm gonna try taking the doing the DEXA scan maybe within a year or so to see where I am
Mhm.
with this weighted thing. So yeah.
Oh, that is so awesome. I love doing these podcasts with you, Kiko. You are so awesome.
Oh, you
Oh.
inspire me. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you can just share quickly that your recent DEXA scan has improved dramatically, right?
Mhm.
Just with the weighted vest, you don't go to the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And when you mentioned that yours is staying the same or, it hasn't gone down, with bone density, it's like it's a really slow progression. So when you have it the same, that's a really good sign because, usually women will lose, I don't even really remember exactly the number. It's like 1 to 2% of their bone mass every year, which, or even for some women, it's every 6 months they're losing that.
I,
So if you're
yeah,
not losing any, then that's like a hugely good sign.
yeah. I this was my first time doing the DEXA scan. I have a feeling it's better than like some years ago because I
Mhm.
wasn't active when I was sick.
Right. Yeah. And so with um, my DEXA scan was 7 months apart from, when we did the first one and we did the second one. But I really wasn't active for 3 months of that because we were working on bundles and I was not doing any exercise at all. So I don't really count those 3 months. But after that, it was about 4 months where I was really active. I did the weighted vest walks, actually started with just weights in my backpack, which is super easy, right? I have friends that put books in their backpack or whatever. And the water that I would carry on my back as well. So I would carry around anywhere from like 8 to maybe 16 pounds worth of weight. And then I'd go to the grocery store and I'd buy food. So that was extra weight added on the way home. But because I didn't have a weighted vest, that's what I did. And I did that for 1 month straight. I did every single day. I was walking absolutely every single day. And it was roughly anywhere between 15,000 and like 25,000 or more steps. I was doing a lot of walking in June. And then in August, it was sporadic. It wasn't as, or July and August, it wasn't as, daily, but I was doing it most days with Nate. And he bought us the weighted vests. So he bought me a 16 pound and he has a 20 pound. And I was wearing the 16 pound weight with the water and, the groceries and everything. So I would carry anywhere from 16 pounds to about 24 to 28 pounds.
Wow.
So I increased it there. And we take the weighted vests hiking now. And like we're planning on a really long hike for this Sunday. We're excited for that one. It's going to be 13 miles. and it's going to be about 2,500 feet of elevation gain. So it's going to be a really big hike. It's probably going to take us about
Wow.
8 hours. Yeah, so we're excited. We have the whole day planned out. We like to plan out our self-care Sunday, so we have, like, all of our favorite things happening in that day, and our favorite foods. Like, we're going to make the wraps and have some masala, some chana masala after. But what I was going to say is, those 4 months that I was really working hard on walking with the weighted vest, I didn't do any weight training at all. All I did was walk with the weighted vest. And in between those two tests, I gained 2.6 pounds of muscle mass. And when I asked what the average woman who is, focused on eating more protein, according to what the world thinks, eating more protein and doing a heavy weightlifting training, like, what could a woman my age, what is their average weight gain in muscle
Mhm.
mass? For someone who's not raw, who's not lifting weights, like, what is
Mhm.
the average? And the average was 1 to 3 pounds. And I gained 2.6 pounds. And I'm like, okay, I'm on the high end of what these women are experiencing when they're focused on that stuff and they have a high weight training program. So I'm like, I'm doing pretty good for not focusing on protein, eating enough, raw vegan, and just walking with a weighted vest. I was mind blown that was, the change that I had on my test. And my
I
bone density
mm,
is great too. Yeah.
I was not interested at all with the weighted vest, but your video really,
Mhm.
oh, I started to think maybe it's an very interesting investment. You should be affiliated with their company, because that was very convincing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have the affiliate link from Amazon.
Ah, okay. So
So,
you can
but
send it to me. I can share on my
oh, okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the one I have is, again, a 16 pound, but it's recommended that you start with like 5 to 10% of your body weight. So you could start with something really light, like even just a backpack with water in it is enough
Mm.
to get a good, like, and be consistent with it. And then add a book into your backpack. Or what I did was, I had my backpack with the water, and I have like an 8 pound dumbbell, and I just put the 8 pound dumbbell at the bottom of the bag. And that's what I walked with, because I didn't know about the weighted vest. I knew about the weighted vests because I knew that's why I added the weight, but I didn't like know which one to get or who or what. And Nate, when he got home, he was so impressed with my walking daily. He was like, let's invest in a weighted vest for you. So now we each have one. But it's really amazing. Actually, on our walk this morning, we walked almost 16,000 steps. So it was about 2 hour walk. And we saw a woman with a weighted vest on the walk. And when we walked by her, we're all like, yeah. It was cool
That's
to see. More people are doing it.
that's excellent. Yeah, that's great. This definitely contributes to a healthy marriage,
Mhm,
because we want to be strong,
mhm,
healthy for a long period of time,
mhm,
so that we don't have to depend on each other, right? That we both have a quality of life, right?
mhm,
It's not romantic to be carried all the way, right? It's
mhm.
only in 20s and 30s maybe,
Yep.
but 60s, 70s, it's a freedom to have a good health.
Mhm,
So let's go to today's topic. It is I don't know, it might be a
mhm,
bit too long, but I wanted to cover on raw vegan nutrition. And now we're gonna focus on the raw vegan nutrition, but this is something very important, just in general, not just raw
mhm,
vegan, right?
mhm,
So what raw vegan nutrition actually looks like day to day, and common misconception. So
mhm,
key nutrition to pay close attention to is, of course, B12. And
mhm,
B12, I have been on a plant-based diet more, so I have done this gradual, slow removing uh, pigs, and then cow's meat, and slowly red meat to white meat, and then fish and all that. And my B12 was excellent. I mean, I'd
mhm,
never had any issues until I started to lose a lot of blood.
mhm.
I actually had an issue with B12 before going raw vegan,
Mm,
and I had tons of like nutrition issues, and I was active, but when I had the blood test, I remember one of the doctors said like, how can you function with this kind of nutrition?
mhm,
And I was before, this was before going vegan. But anyway, I started to notice that my B12 went down, and I'm now supplementing B12 for
mhm.
the last 2 weeks or so. And yeah, I'm gonna check again in a month or so, how if my B12 level has improved.
Mm. Yeah, it's really important. And, Nate and I both did our interviews for Dr. Rick and Karen Dina's summit. She has a summit,
Mm,
or they have a summit coming soon in May. And we did our interviews and they asked us about that. And, the main thing is, and this is a saying that Nate and I say often: test, don't guess.
mm,
Test, don't guess, because so many people could be on the verge of deficiency and they feel great. They feel fine until they don't. And that's where you want to make sure to be on top of things and make sure that your body is getting everything, and to not assume. To not assume that everything is fine just because you're on a raw diet, because it doesn't matter what diet you're on. There are so many other factors that can affect our nutrition and our absorption of different nutrients. So it's super
mm,
important. Get tested, just get tested. And then from there, you get to decide if you're going to take it or not, or test again in a few months and see where it's at. And just watch like a pattern emerge showing, where you're at. And then choose based on that, because you don't want to wait until you have symptoms, because the whole point of choosing healthy food is to not have symptoms. So we don't want to wait until we have symptoms. We want to make sure that we're tracking and testing and
mm,
seeing these things. And I find it so incredibly fascinating to learn about my body, and the fact that we have tests, so we can test our blood, we can test our microbiome, we can test our omega-3 intake, we can test these kinds of things. It's so fascinating. The DEXA scan, I love learning about what my body is doing, and I like to watch the trends and the changes. And if I tweak something in my diet or lifestyle, how that affects the test results, so it's such a fascinating thing. And I think a lot of people are scared of it,
mm. Yeah,
or they fear it because it's not natural. So they don't want to do it. But it's like, we have these technologies, like, why not use them to our advantage and live a longer, healthier life?
yeah, that's great. How
Mhm.
often do you get tested, and what do you get tested?
Yeah, so we do like a vegan blood panel.
Mm.
Um, and there's some websites that you can go to that you can like order everything, and then you pay for it, and then they send you like a rec, and you can just go to like whatever place here
Oh,
in the US, like that you can just go in and get your test result, not the results, but you get the test done, and then they send you the results. But some at-home ones that are really easy. There's a few companies here in the United States that just send you the kit to your house, and you don't even have to go anywhere. So,
that's
but it's
incredible.
yeah, but it's a little bit more limited. Like, you don't get as many, you can't get like that deep, deep, deep analysis that you can with an actual blood test. But there's some really simple things like omega quant. It's just a pinprick to your finger, and they can test your omega-3 and see
Yeah,
how your omega-3.
I might have to
Mhm.
travel to Europe or US just for that, because here in Japan they don't have a test for omega-3 and 6.
Mm.
Yeah, and you have to go any kind of blood test. You have to go to your doctor,
Mhm.
get tested, and you have to wait for the result. And then you have to go back to see your
Mhm.
doctor and discuss about it. It's a long process, but it's worth it, and it's just
Mhm.
once a year, right?
Mhm.
Usually. So I do it, but it is a little more hurdle here in Japan.
Yeah, I know it sucks sometimes with
Mm.
that. But like the microbiome test, you can do at home. So the omega test, you can do at home. There's also a company, I don't know if they still do it here. it's called Routine, Rootine, for those listening. It's another at-home pinprick. You prick your finger, and they can test for your C-reactive protein, your B12, your vitamin D, and something else. So it's like super easy. You just do it at home. And then they have other tests, like there's the Dutch test, which can test hormones. And there are a few
Wow.
other female hormone, like perimenopause hormone. Winona, I think, is a company that does that. There's a few companies out there that do at-home testing. So it's like really comfortable. It's not scary. You do it yourself. You're not like, there's not like a whole bunch of doctors around. It's like so much easier to do that and get
That's
those.
amazing. Yeah, US is amazing. You guys have so many sick people that you
Mhm.
you have so many varieties. I was speaking to
Mhm.
one of my clients. They're a nurse in Hawaii, and we were
Mhm.
talking about the ambulance. Ambulance here in Japan is free for
Mm.
everyone. So
Wow.
some people are,
Lucky.
yeah, some people actually take advantage, and instead of
Mm.
taking taxi, they will just take an ambulance. And in the States, it's like $2,000, right? It's not covered by
Yeah.
insurance. Yeah, so the
Mhm.
nurses were complaining that the people usually wait too long before it gets too serious because they don't want to, this the
Mhm.
healthcare system is quite tricky in the States.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, if you have this vegan the blood test, that's probably easy and simple to just get it done once a year,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah, and you can ask, like I said, you go to the website, and sometimes the website, I can't remember the name of the website off the top of my head, but you go there and you select like a vegan panel, because then they test for the specific things that
mm,
typically would show up in a vegan blood test. So,
mm,
and then you just go get the blood test and they send you the results. And then you can take those results to your doctor, or ideally, if you have a plant-based doctor, obviously you could take it to them for deeper analysis, and talk a
mm,
little further about what's going on. Mhm.
yeah, great. And protein. Yeah, I don't take any protein powder or, you know, but this is something interesting though, because when I do chronometer, I do see that the only thing I am slightly low is the protein. And
Mhm.
I didn't pay attention because I felt great, but just like B12, not, I started to feel the eye twitching when I was going through a very
Mhm.
stressful time. And then I
Mhm.
realized that B12, when I got tested, B12 was low. And that's why testing is very important, because I just assumed that it was magnesium, because when you go through a high stress,
Mm.
and most people are deficient with magnesium.
Mhm.
So I started taking a lot of nigari. Do you know nigari?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The sea
Can,
vegetable?
yeah, it's actually in liquid form. So
Okay.
yeah, in Japan, when you make tofu, so with soy milk with nigari, that makes
Mhm.
it firm tofu. So
Okay.
it's very easily available here in the supermarkets in Japan. And I bought that liquid because it's just a sea water concentration. It's like full of magnesium. So
Mhm.
I took that, and then when I got tested, my magnesium was too much, well, just slightly too much, because I was like adding a lot in my smoothie, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was great that I got tested. But protein, like we don't have a test for protein. Do you have that in the States? Can you?
Yeah, so there is a blood test that you can do that tests for how you use protein. And when Nate was in the hospital, I haven't done that test yet for specifically, but when Nate was in the hospital for his dental abscess, he had a obviously, you have a panel done when you go in the hospital, and they want to see all
Mm,
that kind of stuff. He had his test and it was 7.7. And I think the average range is like 8, like the high end is 8 or 9. So he was like right up there on the high end. And
mm.
he's been raw for 9 years. So,
Oh,
yeah. So his protein levels are really high. And obviously, I mean, without having an actual test, if you are
Mm.
gaining muscle mass on a DEXA scan, that means you're getting enough protein, because
Ah.
otherwise you wouldn't be able to build the muscle, right? If you didn't have the building
Mm.
blocks. And with the protein, the RDA for protein is already set on the high end. So when you look at your needs for protein, way back in the day when they were trying to figure out how much protein people needed, they were testing iron workers and people who were like lifting a lot and really active. And they
Mm.
tried to see who needed what amount of protein. And they tested a whole bunch of different people and body types and activity levels. And what they found was, we didn't actually need a huge amount of protein, but what they did was they doubled it. So the RDA is actually
Oh.
double what the person who needed the most. So they took the person out of the group that needed the most and then they doubled it. And they're like, that's your RDA, just to cover everybody and make sure everyone was getting enough. And when I do chronometer, I get way more than my RDA. I think my RDA is 46 grams of protein a day. And I
Yeah.
get anywhere from 55 to 85 grams a day in my diet. So, and I would say the vast majority of the protein that I get in my diet usually comes from the leafy greens and the herbs and spices and
Sprout.
vegetables.
Sprouts.
Sprouts. Yeah, I was going to say sprouts, like the chickpea sprouts, the lentil sprouts, and any kind of sprouts are going to have more protein. Of course, there's protein in fruit. There's protein in everything, and we both know that. But a
Mm.
lot of people will say, "Well, where's the protein?" It's like, well, there's protein in everything, and it's actually protein. A protein strand is a strand of amino acids, right? So
Mm.
what the body does is when you eat something with protein strands, your body looks at that protein strand and snips it up into the little pieces, the amino acids. And then if you can think of amino acids like Lego pieces. So when you get the protein, it's like a strand of Lego pieces. And then when it goes in your body, the body breaks it up into the individual Lego pieces and it puts it all into a big pool. So
Mm.
it all goes into the Lego basket. So then when the body wants to make muscle or collagen or hormones or something, and it needs proteins or it needs a protein strand, it looks in the pool and digs around and is like, okay, we need this one and this one and this one. And then it puts it all together to build the protein itself.
Mm.
So really all we're looking for is amino acids. And when
Mm.
when we used to eat the muscles from animals, that protein would go in the body and the body would break it down into the Lego pieces and then use the Lego pieces to build the body from that. So it doesn't matter where the amino acids come from, whether it comes from animal or plants, they're still, broken down into their small piece. They're still just amino acids. So that's why it doesn't matter if you get it from animal or plant. They're both equally effective at building muscle mass and building collagen and all that. But we need to have other nutrients around and we need to be eating enough calories, because if we're not eating enough calories, and this, I stress this so much, if you're not eating enough calories for your base needs, which is your BMR, your bare minimum requirement, I like to call it, your basal metabolic rate. If you're not eating that plus your activity levels, if you're only eating your BMR or less, your body is going to be like, well, I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff. So it's going to break down your
Mm.
muscles to compensate for the calories you're not eating. And that is really detrimental for especially us in perimenopause or menopause, right? Like if we are not eating enough, and diet culture has us like, limit your food intake, eat less to weigh less, like we're taught this from when we were little girls to not eat very much. So when you don't eat very much, guess what? Your body's going to eat your muscle mass. And guess what? We kind of need that for later in our life. So it's very important to eat enough. And when you eat enough, you naturally get a wide range of nutrition because you're eating an abundance of calories, you're eating lots of nutrition, you're getting that protein in, you're getting the fiber, you're getting a broad,
Mm.
especially when you're eating variety. So yeah, like the protein thing, I mean, obviously we want to focus on getting more greens, more veggies, more sprouts into our
Mm.
diets to get that, but to also not hyper focus on it, because I feel personally the vast majority of society has their focus in the wrong direction because they're already getting enough protein. They don't need any more, but they're like only 3% of the population gets enough fiber. So,
Mm,
fiber actually should be more focused on than protein because if you eat enough fiber rich foods and you get enough calories from fiber rich foods, you're naturally going to get the amino acids because you're eating enough.
mm,
So you
mhm.
get a lot that way too.
Yeah, that's great. I love
Mhm.
how you explain, and you when you mentioning about Ligu, and you're very yeah, you teach so well.
Oh,
And when you
thank
were
you.
explaining how it works, how protein works, it kind of reminded me of this educational TV series in France. They were made for kids, and they basically
Mhm.
explain about inside what's going on, like our body is working in so mysteriously, but they were trying to explain how it works, and it was, yeah, you did such a great job in explaining uh,
Oh.
about the. So you mentioned that your protein, it's about 55 to 85 grams,
Mhm.
and when you do the chronometer check, do you get according to their
Mhm.
um uh how do because
Their
you can check.
guides,
I'm sorry.
their recommendations or
Yeah,
guides?
their
Yeah.
recommendation on proteins or iron and all that. Do you have more than what
Mhm.
they recommend?
Yes.
Oh,
And
that's
I
great.
actually also there's a website that you can go to look at the RDA based on like your height, your weight. And
Mhm.
that's where Chronometer usually gets their number from because when you enter in your profile, right? You put your weight in, you put your height, you put your age and your gender and all that stuff. And then from there it takes that information, then it pulls from the studies and it says, okay, well somebody your age, your gender, your height, your activity level or whatever should need about 46
Mm.
grams of protein a
Yeah,
day.
so you must be getting most of it from the sprouts, because
Mhm,
I do include sprouts, but not as much as yours. And
mhm,
like sprouted beans, I don't like the taste much.
mhm,
Sometimes I would do deep freeze, but it's not, consistent.
mhm,
So I started to think I have been fully raw, but I started to think about including the cooked, like
mhm,
maybe sprouted beans and cooked, because
mhm,
I cannot be consistent. Well, I have
mhm.
not been consistent with raw. Do you recommend that? People
You
who
know
are not comfortable with eating
right.
raw sprouted sprout in a
Yeah.
big amount of, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, you could also increase your greens and your other veggies as well because there is protein. I think like spinach is like 17% protein or something. Don't quote me on it, but maybe it's fat that it is. But like the
I eat a
green,
lot.
yeah.
I actually in my green smoothies I would add about 350 or 400 grams, and
Mhm.
then for lunch that would be another 350, 400 grams. And still my protein seems to be slightly lower,
Mhm.
and that's consistent. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so, the more you add, like, you could try doubling it and see. I know it's gonna not gonna add a huge amount of extra protein, but,
Mm,
adding more and having, like, larger portions can help as well. And then, yeah, like you said, you tried the freeze thaw method, and sometimes that can be good. Lentils are more consistent with that, and we
mm,
like to do the lentils, we sprout the lentils for, like, a day, so they have, like, a little itty bitty tiny tail, and then we freeze them. And
mm,
when we thaw them, they have the same consistency. We find. I mean, I haven't had cooked lentils in like years, but Nate has had, cooked lentils, and he says that they're super similar. Like he can't even tell the difference really between the
oh.
lentils. So if you don't like the chickpeas, stick with lentils, and yeah, just
And you
sprout them.
add them in the salad, or how do you eat them?
Yeah, we usually use them in like a raw curry or a soup or stew or something because then it's like it's more cozy, it's more,
Mm,
involved with the sauce and stuff. So it's a little more enjoyable. And
mm,
yeah, we made there's one recipe that we have in Make It Raw 3, I believe it is. I can't remember, but it's we have like over 1,000 recipes. I'm like, which book was that in? But it is, oh, it's in the new Raw Vegan Culinary Techniques ebook, which you should have because you've
Mm,
got the bundle. So it's in that ebook. It's called Lemon Lebanese Lentil Stew Soup, and
mm,
you use the lentils in that one. And Nate, when he first tried that one, he was like, I can't even tell that this isn't cooked because it's got
mm.
such a similar consistency. So you could still do the raw. I mean, like if you add a couple beans in, it's not, the end of the world, obviously, but
Right, right.
it's not
Okay, let
raw,
me.
but it's not the end of the world. So
Yeah, I want
yeah.
to be consistent, especially
Yeah.
I saw with B12 that, oh, it's okay. I think I
Mhm.
have been on the low side of B12 for a long period of time, but I was still in the, average range, and
Mhm.
I didn't pay attention because, you feel great with this diet, right?
Yeah.
And just like Lisa, you were saying that we don't want to, you know, s-
You don't
discover
wanna
why.
wait for symptoms. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It's better to
Mhm.
be consistently amazing
Mhm.
feeling. So let's see so we talk about protein, and we have quite a few others. So iodine, zinc, and
Mhm.
iron. Those are.
Yeah, iron. If people want a really amazing source of iron, one of the best sources is sunflower microgreens because one cup is not a lot. Like when you're eating salads that have 20 cups of vegetables in it, one cup of sunflower microgreens isn't, it's not very much. One cup has 6 milligrams of iron in it according to Chronometer, and that's like 6 milligrams is a lot. When menstruating women need around 18 milligrams a day and men need 8. Like one cup gives you 6. Like that's so amazing. Sunflower microgreens are amazing. They're a little harder to grow. You have to grow them in the soil. But once you get the hang of it, they are they are so amazing. Adding like 2 to 3 cups in your salad every day, that's going to make a big difference for your iron. And also with iron, you want to have it with like vitamin C, the intrinsic factor, like the B12 and stuff. You want to make sure that all of those are ingested together to
Mm,
help absorb that too, because you need vitamin C to help absorb iron. And it can make a big difference, especially in
mm,
perimenopause. A lot of people think, oh, iron is more for the menstruating women, but, women in perimenopause need that iron as well. And if you don't have enough iron, you can feel nauseated often. You can
mm.
feel really lethargic, like just really tired. Because think iron is what oxygenates the blood. Like that's where you have like that oxygen. And oxygen is life. So if you think of vibrancy,
Mm.
you want to make sure that you have enough iron to transport oxygen. And without that, you're gonna feel really tired, really like just like exhausted. Like,
Yeah,
you
it's
yeah.
funny because everyone's symptom is different. In
Mhm.
my last blood test, uh which was a month ago, I was feeling great, but my iron and B12 was they were both
Mhm.
low, and that was the first time like I had when I was going through a very heavy cycle, hemoglobin and
Mhm.
sometimes iron was low, which was kind of understandable. But this time, hemoglobin was perfect. I had enough, but iron was low, which was kind of
Mm.
interesting. So, like I don't know. I think I'm quite intuitive, but
Mhm.
I- just get the blood test done. I
Yep,
like
yep,
so
exactly. I
easy.
know. Don't guess, test.
Yeah. Yeah, and iron here in
Mhm,
Japan. So I was taking moringa powder. I don't do it
mhm,
anymore, but when yeah, I was I was adding a lot of moringa powder, which has a lot of iron in it. And here in Japan also, we have this um iron bowl like this, and then we just when we make a tea, we just add that water.
oh, okay.
Yeah, we just add that iron in the water, and it gets a bit of iron
Mm,
in the warm water. And
mhm,
that's quite common here in Japan. My sister-in-law, long time ago, she gave it to me. So I do that when I make warm water in the morning.
mhm,
Um, and then what else? because it was low, I am taking the pill, iron pill,
Mhm.
just for a short period of time and it wasn't that low, so I don't think I would have to take it for a long period of time. But
Mhm.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah, and they do have some raw iron supplements. There's a company here called Garden of Life, and they make a
mm,
raw iron supplement. They do a raw
wow.
B12 as well. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Mm,
They use raw ingredients that are high in those minerals in the supplement. So, yeah, it's a really cool option.
wow,
Mm,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. Sunflower sprout. I haven't found anything. I mean, that's something that you don't find it in the store, right? Easily.
You can every once in a while, we will see some, usually at a farmer's market, because a lot, like especially at a farmer's market where you have a sprout grower or a
Mm,
microgreen grower who sells like all different kinds. Usually they'll have sunflower microgreens. We have seen them in some more specialty health food stores, but it's not something that, like, if you go to the average grocery store here, you can usually get like broccoli sprouts or clover or alfalfa. And then
mm,
at like more specialty stores, you can get other microgreens like radish or beet or some other ones. Sometimes they'll have like a mix of different microgreens, but sunflower microgreens are the hardest to find. So we recommend learning to grow your own because, they aren't as easy, but once you do learn and you get into the groove, you can grow them. They take about 10 days to grow. So what I would recommend is you start your seeds on day 1, and then on day 5, while they're halfway grown, you start a new tray. And then every 5 days, you're starting a tray. So you always have, microgreens ready to harvest. So you're, what we like to call a sea of green. So there's always new ones coming and new ones available if you keep up, every 5 days starting a tray. And once they grow, you can just cut them and put them in your salads. But yeah, it does take a little practice because they do grow in soil and you have to germinate them, and it takes a little bit of time, but there's plenty of YouTube videos out there of people showing you how they do it, and there's lots of different techniques on how to do it, and it depends on your humidity of the area you live in, how dry your place is,
mm, mm,
the soil that you choose, that can make a difference as well. So it's more trial and error. You just got to try it and see what works
mm,
and tweak from there. But yeah, it's harder to find in the stores, but if you grow your own, it's really inexpensive to do it.
mm. Yeah. And then you get more fibers from that. So
Yes, yes,
that's
that's a
excellent.
bonus too, yeah.
Yeah. And let's see, iron and then protein, let's see, vitamin D,
Mm.
K2, and
Woo!
calcium.
Yes. Those are so essential for bone health, right? The D, the calcium, and the K2, those are all essential. And then obviously there's other minerals too involved in that, like boron and stuff. But those are the three main ones. So calcium, K2, and um, what was that third
Calcium.
one? D, vitamin D.
Vitamin D,
Yeah,
yeah. Do
vitamin
you
D.
take, yeah, do you take supplements for vitamin D? I mean,
No, we don't. We do have some supplements and sometimes we'll take them. But in the summertime, we don't because here in Las Vegas, the sun, like, it depends on where you are in the
yeah.
world. Like sometimes
Mhm.
the sun, even though it's a sunny day and you are exposed to the sun, you're not making the same amount of vitamin D as somebody
Right.
who's closer to the tropics. So here, I believe we get enough. My test result is like on the high end of normal. So
Mm.
yeah. But I spend a lot of time in the sun. I do wear sunscreen on days where we're out for like hours because,
Mm.
I still want to protect my skin in certain times. But for the most part, I don't usually wear sunscreen if we're only out for like 20 minutes or whatever. I don't worry about it.
What kind of
But
sunscreen do you use?
there's a natural one from a company called Suntegrity that I really like. It's like a tinted moisturizer for the face, and then for the body, I like one from Eminence Organics. They have a really nice. They have a couple different ones. They have like a vanilla, but it's a mineral based, so it's not
Okay.
chemical.
What's the second one for the body?
Eminence,
M&M's. Okay.
Eminence Organics. Yeah. They're a really cool company out of Hungary. They've been around for decades. Like I used to use them when I was in my early 20s. I just love the concept of the company. they're biodynamic organic, so they like harvest, you know, with the moon and stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool company.
Nice. And
Mhm.
they're Hungarian, you said.
Yeah, yeah, so it's really cool. But yeah, vitamin D, I think if somebody is deficient in vitamin D or they're living in northern climates where they don't get access
Mhm.
to the sun, I think it's wise to get tested for one. Test and
Yeah,
get.
it's yeah,
Yeah.
for example, like
Mhm.
New York,
Yes.
in during the winter time, you
Mhm.
cannot, even though you're naked and
Yeah.
all day long, you would not get enough vitamin
Exactly.
D.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But something that's very interesting, there are no plant sources of vitamin D except for mushrooms. And now mushrooms
Mm,
aren't considered a plant, they're a fungus. But if you take the mushroom and you know the gills underneath, if you expose the gills to the sunlight, if you have 1 cup of mushrooms and you expose it to direct sunlight for about an hour to an hour and a half, those mushrooms will create enough vitamin D for your daily needs. 1 cup. It's like, no, maybe it's like a cup and a half, I think. Chopped
mm,
mushrooms exposed to the sun for an hour and a half ish will get you your daily needs for vitamin D, which is really cool. So that's an
mm.
option too for people.
Yeah, that's quite
Mm.
common here in Japan. People
Mm.
tend to do that. And they said that so after, exposing in the sun for a few hours and freezing it, supposed to make it more
Oh.
nutritional available. Yeah, that's what many Japanese people do. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's
Hmm.
cool. That's cool to know. Yeah.
And yeah, I like doing that because it's just then I can use the mushroom anytime I want because I don't use it all the time,
Mhm.
and it does get kind of soggy, or in the fridge. So
Right,
I
and you
like
do need to eat, like, a cup and a half of it, so
that.
it's
That's a lot.
it's a
Yeah.
lot, yeah,
Yeah.
but then with K2, we both know the best source of vitamin
Natto.
K2 is natto, yeah, fermented product, and for those of you who don't like the natto straight, like the fresh ferment, because it can be sticky, it's kinda
Mm,
slimy, and it's an acquired taste for a lot of people, you can get freeze-dried natto. So they take the natto and they freeze dry it, and a lot of people think like, well, what is freeze drying? What they do is they take the produce or ferment or whatever they're going to freeze dry, and it's dried under vacuum at like minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit or colder. So what happens in the machine is it's frozen, and then they extract the water with a process called sublimation. So the water actually bypasses the liquid state. It goes from frozen solid to gas. It doesn't hit that liquid state. And then the gas is sucked out with vacuum, and then the water is released outside of the machine. Now, with freeze drying, you can retain up to 97% of the nutrition found in whatever you're freeze drying. Whereas with other forms of food preservation, you can lose up to, I mean, depending on how you're doing it, like cooking or whatever, can lose up to 40 to 60 or more percent of the nutrition when you're preserving
mhm.
the food. Whereas with freeze drying, you get to retain up to 97% of the nutrition. Like that's the
It's
top
amazing.
number one source or way to preserve your food. Plus, it's raw because
Mm,
it's done under vacuum in a frozen environment, so it's actually technically raw. And when they heat up the food to extract the water, the food only gets to be about 90 degrees or something like that. Like it's still well below the raw temperature. So it's still considered raw, and it's very high in nutrition. So if you want to get some freeze dried natto, that's going to be the best. And I find it's quite savory tasting. It doesn't taste the same as the fresh ferment. So we like to add like half a teaspoon or whatever to our salad dressings when we blend them up. Or sometimes we've been adding a little bit to our wraps too. We just add like a teaspoon of the freeze dried natto to our wrap mix, and we blend it right in there. So it's like our wraps have a little K2 in there too, but it's so essential for bone health and dental health too.
that's fantastic. I've never tried the freeze dry, but I'm gonna try it because I don't. Yeah, I don't have it all the time. And what's great about freeze dry is like it's always there. Like
Mhm.
it does last longer, and you can just use it like a powder form, right?
Yeah.
Sprinkle it over your salad or add it in the dressing. But you
Mhm.
have a freeze drying machine, right?
Mhm. Yes, we do. We invested in our freeze dryer in 2022, I believe. So we've had it for about 4 years now. We saved up for it because it is a fairly expensive machine. I think
Mm.
ours, all said and done with the trays and everything, because we got extra trays and we got the large version. I think it was about $3,500 or like $4,000 to get that machine. But it's so amazing because you can freeze dry everything. Like if you have like too many bell peppers, you can freeze dry them. And what is really cool, and I really wanted to touch on choline, because choline is one of those nutrients that is not as readily available in a raw diet. And I feel like a lot of raw vegans or vegans start to crave eggs because eggs are high in choline. And it's a neurological vitamin that we need, and there is a huge amount of it in cauliflower. But a lot of raw vegans don't eat a lot of cauliflower. Some do, like Dr. Rick Dina. He eats a head of cauliflower every day. But cauliflower is one of the highest sources in a raw vegan diet for choline. So essential for brain health. So what we like to do is we chop up our cauliflower, and we'll buy like 15 heads of cauliflower. We chop them up and freeze them.
Wow.
Yeah, so we freeze them, and
Colleen is like this. Is that spelled?
choline with an E at the end. Yeah,
Okay,
choline with an
thanks.
E at the end. Cauliflower, cauliflower. You spelled it French. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I'm getting
uh,
French spelling is horrible. I get so confused.
yeah, it's a got the French ending. I love that. But yeah. So what we do is we chop it up and freeze it, and then we thaw it, and we add a sauce. We'll add we really like the nacho cheese or the buffalo sauce, one of like some of our recipes, and then we freeze it on the trays, and then we put it in the freeze dryer and freeze dry it. It's like cheesies, like cheese snacks. Those like
Oh, nice.
junk food. It doesn't taste like junk food, obviously, but it's so good. And they're light and fluffy and crunchy. And it's so easy. I could eat a whole head of cauliflower in like 5 minutes because they're so good. They're just so delicious. So yeah, the freeze dryer has been amazing. And also, we like to bloom black forbidden rice. So that's something that
Yeah,
we,
I have. Yeah,
yeah,
it's so difficult to get here in Japan,
yeah,
but those are great, right? And
yeah.
another thing that's difficult to get is the mushroom. What's the white mushroom that you
Oh,
use?
lion's mane.
Lion's mane. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You might be able to order a kit, and you
Ah,
could grow it yourself, because you can grow your own mushrooms in your own house. If you can find someone there who sells kits, you might be able to
mane.
grow your own
Uh,
lion's
uh,
mane.
Lion's mane. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We had a kit, we grew oyster mushrooms one time from a kit, and it's
I
really
have done.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have done that. That's so fun. Just spray, and it's
Yeah.
very easy.
Yeah,
But
very easy. So yeah, look and see, because
mm,
there might be someone there who's doing that for lion's mane. But yeah, the cauliflower, the bloom black forbidden rice. What we like to do is we will do. So we order big bags of it because we can here, like 22 pounds worth of it, and then we will separate it into multiple jars. And it's all you do is soak it for 72 hours. Like you don't have to do anything fancy. You just soak it for 72 hours. After 72 hours, we rinse it and drain it really well, and we put it on those trays and we freeze dry it. Because then when you freeze dry
oh,
it, then you've got sprouted, bloomed black forbidden rice forever. It's just sits in your cupboard. So whenever you want some, you just scoop a cup out and put it in a little bit of water, and it rehydrates, and it's instant.
wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So it was worth it for us because, we don't have a stove or a microwave or anything like that. We're like, we invest in a freeze dryer.
Yeah, it kind of looks like machine. I'm getting the
Kind
French
of looks like
word.
a laundry machine,
Yeah, exactly.
like
Machine,
a
machine
washer.
a
Yeah,
laundry. I was gonna say laundry machine. Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting and it's quite
Mhm,
big as well.
mhm.
But so when you freeze dry the rice, the black rice, does it taste the same as the fresh one or?
Yeah, everything that's freeze dried tastes the same, but I feel like the flavor's a little more concentrated because you take all the water out. So
Mhm.
it can be like a little stronger in flavor, which is wonderful because it tastes so good. And then when you rehydrate it, it's a softer texture. It's not as like
Mhm.
fresh and crunchy. It's a little more soft. So the rice is actually even softer and it tastes just like it's been cooked. So you just
Wow.
take a scoop and add it. Yeah, I know. For our Sunday night dinner that we're planning, like I mentioned, we're going to do that hike. We're going to have the masala and we're going to do the rice. Now, what we want to do is the Saturday night before the hike, because when we get home from our hike after 8 hours, we're not going to want to make dinner. So what I want to do is all we're going to do is blend a sauce for our masala. That's it. Everything else is going to be prepared Saturday night, the night before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our frozen and thawed chickpeas, our sprouted chickpeas, some fresh peas, some tomatoes and onions and broccoli and maybe mushrooms, and I'm going to put them all in a bowl and mix like a marinade. So maybe a little coconut aminos, some miso, some curry powder, and some spices and garlic and ginger and all that kind of stuff. I'll
Mhm.
mix that into a bowl with the vegetables. And then I'm going to add a cup of freeze dried rice dry. Like I'm not going to add any water to it because any of the water that's still left in the thawed chickpeas and the thawed peas is going to pool at the bottom, right? You're going to have all this liquid while it's sitting in the fridge
Mhm.
marinating. I want that liquid to absorb into the rice so that when it's dinner time, we just come home, blend the sauce, pour it in there, and eat that for dinner. So it'll already be ready. But it's a cool way to like rehydrate the rice by using like a marinade or something like that to infuse the flavor into the rice. It's gonna be so good.
My mouth is watering.
Ah,
Oh my god.
we like our food.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, back to Colleen and cauliflower. That's thanks so much for mentioning it because
Mhm.
you're the first person mentioning that Colleen, like most vegan, when they crave for eggs, that's
Mhm.
because they are missing choline. Because a lot of people don't eat cauliflower. I personally
Mhm.
started to add cauliflower into my diet, thanks to you.
Mhm.
It's so delicious, especially
Mhm.
just during this cold month here in Japan. The cauliflowers, cabbage, and all that cruciferous veggies, so delicious, like sweet, and
Mhm.
it's crunchy. I love the taste of it. But it's such an important topic because it's kind of too bad that people start eating eggs
Mhm.
after being vegan. It's like, oh, they feel amazing after eating some eggs. And if they can just eat the head of cauliflower, right?
Mhm.
Dr. Brooke Goldner has an amazing recipe also for, like, I think it's called popcorn recipe, right? And cauliflower basically was nutritional yeast and the flaxseed oil,
Mhm.
and you don't have to add flaxseed oil. You can
Mhm.
just sprinkle with nutritional yeast and maybe a bit of salt, and it's just, yeah, you just eat it
Mhm.
like replace that potato chips.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. I know there's so many snacks that you can make with
Mm,
cauliflower. And you can actually, if you freeze cauliflower and then thaw it, it has the same texture as it's been steamed. So if somebody isn't into like the crunchy cauliflower the way it is in nature, they can freeze it and then thaw it and get that soft texture from it.
mm,
And that's really good if you want to, how they like to call it, extend the fat in your dressing. Like if you, instead of using 1 cup of cashews, you use a quarter cup of
mm,
cashews, and then the rest of the volume is the thawed from frozen cauliflower, because the cauliflower gives it that nice creaminess.
mm,
And yeah, it's a really great option for people who want to make their dressings a little thicker and creamier without adding so much fat.
mhm.
Zucchini works for that as well, but the thawed from frozen cauliflower has so many uses. You can blend it in anything. It's pretty neutral. You can make raw sushi with it. I mean,
Mm.
if you make raw sushi with cauliflower, it's easy to eat a whole head.
True, true, true. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That it's great tip. Adding the
Mhm.
cauliflower into the thawed cauliflower into the dressing, yeah,
Mhm.
makes it so creamy and it's white, so it makes
Yep.
it yeah, it's great. You don't need extra nuts into your salad. So the
Exactly.
next topic is caloric density. So how
Ooh.
can we eat? That's very important if you're fully raw or high raw vegan. This might take a bit of time
Mhm.
to get used to with the volume. As someone who loves eating like us, like we love eating the volume, right? Yeah, a lot of people are so surprised because I'm thin, and people think that you must eat so little. Like, and
Mhm.
when they see my salad, it's like,
I know,
do
right?
you are you gonna finish that in one sitting? I
Mhm.
was like, yes, I am
Yep,
going to finish it.
totally, I know, it's really interesting. Even people who are into raw food, when they see our salads, they're like, "I am not eating enough." Because you really do need to eat more on a raw diet, and with calorie density, we understand that there's 3 indicators on, like, how dense, the calories are gonna be in a food. Number 1 is water, number 2 is
Mhm.
fiber, and number 3 is fat. So, when you have a food that is high in water content, high in fiber content, and low in fat, it's going to be low in calorie density. But when you have a food that is low in water content, low in fiber content, and higher in fat, it's going to be higher in calorie density. So, water and fiber fill you up. That's the thing that people don't realize is that, when you have apples, grapes, fruit, vegetables, those kinds of things, they're very high in water content. Like, even I think, like, cauliflower, I think is like 92% water or something
Mm.
like that. Yeah, most vegetables are over 90% water. 89 to 92 is the range. And then you've got like the fresh juicy fruits, obviously we know are really high in water content. But if you think of your stomach, and if you put all that water in there, it's going to fill up the space. And that's where volume comes into play, because calorie density is the amount of calories per volume of food. So if you have your stomach like this and you eat a big giant mango and a couple apples, it's going to fill up this entire space. And what then happens is, as you put a little bit extra food in, it kind of stretches and it signals something called a stretch receptor, and that signals to your brain that you're full. So when your stomach actually stretches, you get that signal that says, "Hey, hey, hey, don't put anything else in there because it's already too full. So don't put anything else in there." And then, raw food is really easy to digest. So, you digest and everything goes back down, and in a couple hours you're hungry again, which is totally normal. I think people like want to control their hunger and be like, "I need to be
Mm.
full for 6 hours." But that's not natural. We should probably be grazing more often, like most of the animals out there, and eating more often to get those calories in. But with modern life and our ultra processed foods, animal products, oils, like the really high fat options and the really dry options, again, freeze dried food falls into this category because there is like no water content. So it is denser in calories because there's no water content. But freeze dried food like plants is obviously a way better option than potato chips. We understand that. But when it comes to calorie density, fact, it's
Mm.
dry. So there's no water in it. So potato chips, crackers, bread, all of that, all of those foods are very low in water content. So they're
Mm.
higher in calories. And what happens here is that, like, you have your stomach, but you eat, crackers and chips and animal products and oils. And oils, like 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories. So you're getting a huge amount of calories in a very small little tiny package. And that goes into your stomach. Before your stomach stretches, you have to eat so many more calories than on
Mm.
raw food. And on a raw food diet, you can fit maybe 500 to 700 calories in your stomach at any given moment, right? Like if you eat a meal, it's usually you can stuff maybe max like 700 calories in there if you're really you're really chewing your food well, so it's really condensed. But yeah, 500 to 700 calories. Whereas with cooked food, I've seen people eat like 2,500 to 3,000 calories in one meal and fit that all in there because of the calorie density, right? Because you can get those oils, those fats, the dried foods. You can fit a lot in there calorie wise. So it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because once you get that stretch receptor, you've eaten 2,500 calories and your brain is like, oh, don't put anything else in there. It's 2,500 calories, whereas with raw food, it might only be 500. So
Mm.
that's where the overeating thing comes into play because it's really hard to overeat on a raw diet unless you're
Yeah.
overeating fats. But fats, again, are high calorie density. So, yeah, we really have to pay attention to that and understand calorie density and learn that because raw foods are very low in calorie density, we have to eat more of them to get more calories and more nutrition, which is totally fine. But it takes practice, it takes patience, it takes planning, it takes not forgetting to eat, like, because that's such an
Mm-hmm.
easy thing to do, even on any diet. Like, people forget to eat because 'cause they're too busy, they're doing other stuff. So, on a raw diet, that can be really challenging, especially for nutritional deficiencies, because 'cause you're already eating low calorie dense foods. You're gonna need to make sure that you eat and don't skip meals, otherwise, you're gonna crave all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, keeping it low fat is so
Oh,
important. And I think I have yeah, it took me a while for me to get to where I am. But
mhm,
when including as like high raw vegan, I would eat because I suffered on a for eating disorder.
mhm,
I yeah, like let's say pumpkin, steamed pumpkin,
mhm,
which used to be my favorite, and it's very difficult for me to stop when is the
mhm,
when is the right time to stop with raw vegan, as you are mentioning, because we have a stomach size, right? And when we have smoothies or salad, it just fills up. It's mostly water,
mhm,
and I might think, oh, I ate a little too much on raw vegan diet, but it just passed like very short period of time. I feel
mhm,
light right away. But
mhm,
with cooked food, even with some steamed potato or pumpkin or sweet potato, for someone like me who has this eating disorder history, it was very difficult. And I have suffered too much. And just
mhm,
listening to you mentioning bread and crackers and
mhm.
all that just makes me feel so heavy on my
Yeah.
stomach because I have suffered. Like, yeah, I don't know when to stop. And our
Mhm,
stomach can't. Like, some people can stop very easily. Like my husband is very he can stop when it's necessary, but
mhm,
I feel like my body kind of learned until I'm like super full. I can't
mhm.
get that receptor.
Yep,
Kiko, you need to stop. That's why
yep,
raw vegan for me is excellent diet because I
mhm,
I need to be eating a lot, which I was like, wow, this is great. I
mhm.
love eating.
I know,
I
me
love
too.
it.
I know. I'm like, bring on the salads, bring them on. I love it. I just love the flavor and just the act of eating because I think
Mhm,
most people do. We do get a hit of dopamine when we eat anything, regardless
mhm,
of what if it's ultra processed or just an apple, we get a hit of dopamine. Now, the problem isn't dopamine itself, it's the amount of dopamine and how often we get the amount of dopamine. That's where
mhm,
the ultimate problem is because, eating is supposed to be enjoyable. Because if it wasn't enjoyable, our bodies wouldn't want to eat. Like it's part of our life, and we get a little hit of dopamine. We get dopamine when we hear a baby laugh. We get dopamine when we fall in love. We get dopamine
mhm,
when we get an award for something or when we've accomplished something. Like, you get dopamine when you check something off your to-do list. So it's like dopamine isn't bad. It's the amount that we're getting. So we're getting hyper amounts from ultra processed food. We're getting too much from scrolling our phones late at night. There's the
mhm.
unhealthy amount of dopamine that we're getting. So yeah.
Yeah, I have
Mhm.
a couple more. Are you okay
Okay.
with
Yeah,
time?
yeah, for sure,
Okay.
yeah. We
So,
can go a little longer.
enzyme-rich and mineral-dense foods that supports hormonal health and energy in midlife.
Mm, yes, yes. Enzyme rich is so important. That's why we choose a raw diet. And then mineral rich is important too. Most people they focus too much on the fruit, and fruit is amazing. Fruit has so many good qualities to it. But fruit's main kind of superstar action is like calories, vitamins, and water. It's like really hydrating. It's very calorie dense compared to, vegetables. And there's a lot of vitamins in fruit as well, especially berries. There's a lot of polyphenols and all that. So fruit shines in the calorie water rich department, whereas vegetables, sprouts, greens, these all shine in the protein, fiber variety, mineral rich, and other phytochemicals department. So we need both. They're so super important. And that's why I feel
Mm.
like, when we do our women's health podcast with the other girls, a lot of them say that they are so drawn to greens because I think we need more mineral rich foods, especially in midlife, and especially when we're going through so much stress as human beings. Because as
Mm.
you mentioned with the magnesium, I remember when I used to work at the natural health food store, this would have been over 20 years ago when I was working there. We learned that 97% of the population was deficient in magnesium or borderline deficient in magnesium. And that's
Wow.
what we were taught back then. I don't know what the numbers are now, but back then that really stood out to me. I was like,
Mm.
magnesium. Okay, magnesium. Magnesium and fiber are like the top two things that most people are deficient in. And they're also the top two things found in greens. So it's like, like we have such a serious deficiency in greens and vegetables in our
Mm.
society. Like the average person's only eating 12 grams of fiber a day, which is pitiful in my opinion. The RDA being set at around 30 grams, I think is way too low. Like Nate and I eat anywhere from 85 to 100 grams of fiber a day, and the average person's eating 12. Like, that's why it's really hard for people to go from an ultra processed food diet or a high animal based diet to a raw food diet if their gut's not, like some you have to go slow sometimes
How
because
many grams of leafy greens do you add, including cruciferous
um,
veggies?
I would say on average we're eating I don't even know by weight. But if I had to guess in pounds, I would say maybe 2.5 to 3 pounds, which a
Okay.
pound is
1.5
454
kilos.
grams. Yeah, so
1.5.
a kilo and a half of greens and
Wow.
vegetables. That's like everything. That's not just greens. That's like greens and, like you said, cruciferous and,
Mm.
um, I would consider all the veggies like sprouts
The sprouts as
included in
well.
there as
That's
well. So, like,
great.
our dinner salad is usually anywhere from 15 to 20 cups. We measured it one time. We used a little cup thing and we scooped out 1 cup at a time and our salad was like
Mm.
20 cups and that was just one salad for the day. We usually have two
I'm
salads.
gonna measure it today.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I would love to send me a DM and let me know how many cups it is. But yeah, usually our salad is anywhere from 15 to 20 cups worth of greens and
Mm.
vegetables and sprouts and tomatoes and cucumbers and all kinds of stuff. Like we measured by then. But I would say, yeah, roughly a kilo and a half, maybe 2.5 pounds of greens and vegetables we do a day. Like we try to eat a lot of
Mm.
those because minerals are so important. And, in perimenopause, our adrenal glands take over. And this is really good, important. I mean, speaking of healthy marriages, when we are stressed out and we are burnt out, we can't have an effective, healthy relationship because, we're running on fumes. We're just like challenged with the stress
Yeah.
and with our adrenal glands because when our ovaries stop making estrogen, they make maybe like 15% of the total amount of estrogen that we need, or needed before we went through the
Mm.
transition. But our adrenal glands take over for the ovaries and they are already taxed and maxed to the max. They are dealing with stress and cortisol and all that stuff. And all of a sudden they're thrown another job. They're like, oh, hey, by the way, you have to deal with all the female hormone stuff too. Thank you. So it's hard for the adrenal glands and they need minerals, especially magnesium. So
Mm.
and that's why I think a lot of perimenopausal women gravitate towards the leafy greens, especially in our little group, the raw vegans. They're all like, oh, I couldn't get enough greens. I can't get enough greens. I want greens. And it's because we need those minerals to help support our hormones through this transition.
Yeah, my favorite
Mhm.
way to add it is in my smoothies.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
easy to do it that way. Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, how raw veganism supports and why it requires extra. intention through
Mhm.
perimenopause and hormonal transition.
Mhm.
We touched some already, but you want to
Mhm.
add a little more?
Yeah, so I believe a raw vegan diet helps through the transition because it's lighter. It's obviously more nutritious. We're obviously getting more fiber, and the microbiome is actually quite intimately linked with our hormones. So, having a healthy
Mm,
microbiome is very important as well. And also, something that is extra important is supporting phase two liver detox. Now, there's two phases of detox in our bodies. There's phase one and phase two. Phase one is pretty easy. It happens a lot. But phase two needs some really deep nutritional support. And a lot of the nutrition that phase two needs comes from cruciferous veggies. That's
mm,
why they are such a powerful detox food, and greens, because they provide the body the essentials to make glutathione, which is involved in the phase two detox pathway. So, what happens is you have phase one, where the body takes the chemical or the toxin or whatever it is, and it converts it into a hyper reactive chemical. Like, it's actually, in some cases, it's more dangerous and more damaging than the original chemical itself. So if you think about that, phase one takes the chemical and converts it, and then phase two takes that and makes it inactive. It's water soluble, and it can just
mm,
it leaves out of your stools, through your urine or whatever. It's totally inactive and not harmful. But what's happening, I see a lot in the detox community, or people who go on cleanses, who have all these detox symptoms. It's clear to me now, after like 25 years of learning about detox over my life, it's clear
mm.
that they are not supporting phase two. They're scared of cruciferous veggies. They don't want the greens because they think it
Yeah.
slows detox. So they avoid all those. They stick with fruit, or they do juices or a water fast or
Mm,
something. And what's happening is phase one is working, but phase two isn't supported. So you have all these like hyper reactive chemicals running through the body, causing like headaches and joint pain. And another thing too is a lot of those symptoms of detox are also symptoms of undereating, which most people on a detox
mm,
usually are undereating. So it's a combination of not supporting phase two and undereating at the same time, which is causing all these symptoms. And we are made to detox. Our body is a detox machine.
machine.
We have like, what is it, 7 detox organs? Like, we are efficient detoxers, but the
Yeah.
body needs that support. It needs hydration, it needs proper rest, it needs movement. Your lymph doesn't have a pump. Your lymph is moved through movement. So if you're sedentary, there's a lot of stagnant toxins that are sitting there.
Mm,
You're not moving your body. So movement, sleep, hydration, raw food, those all are so important for the daily detox that we're not supposed to feel. We're not supposed to
mm,
feel detox. So, when people are like, "Oh, I got all these symptoms, I'm detoxing. Yay, me." It's like,
mm,
actually, you should not feel the detox symptoms. And when people say green slow detox, they don't actually slow detox, they facilitate it. They make it easier because the fiber helps to pull the toxins out of the body. The nutrition helps the body to support phase two detox. There's so much in greens and vegetables that are so
mm,
beneficial for us. So with the raw food, obviously, like the hydration and all the nutrition that we get definitely supports the liver and other organs in our body and our adrenal glands as well, especially stress management and proper sleep, the exercise. That's all going to help support the adrenal glands as well as they take on, this new job that they have to do. Mm.
Wow, that's great. I cannot agree more.
Mm.
I think I was more leaning to green smoothies, and
Mhm.
that's why I didn't have to suffer so much.
Mhm.
I had both phase one and phase two, and I
Mhm.
didn't see that gross thing coming out of my body.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff, if you think about it too, the mucus lining, what we're learning in microbiome health over the last like 5-10 years, we're learning a lot about the microbiome health, and the mucus lining inside our guts is actually home for our microbiome. Like, we don't want to be damaging that. That's like an important
True.
part. And the thicker it is, when we have a thick mucus layer, that is super protective against things floating into your into your bloodstream from your gut that should not go in there. So the thick mucus layer is number one, home for the microbiome. It's also food for the microbiome, and it protects us from all the stuff that's in our gut. So it's super important to have that intact and healthy and strong and not trying to strip it out of our body. And
Mm.
also, something that I find really interesting is like, people will say, like, oh, you've got like 15 pounds of impacted fecal matter or whatever inside you from like decades ago. But if you think about it, if somebody is constipated, and we're just using logic here, right? If somebody is constipated and they haven't had a bowel movement for 4 days, and they usually eat the average, I think it's like, I can't remember the average now. I think it's like 4 pounds of food a day, 2 to 4 pounds of food a day. So we'll say they're eating on the high end, they're eating ultra processed food and junk, and they're eating 4 pounds of food a day. If they haven't had a bowel movement in 4 days, 4 times 4 is 16. Where does that food volume go? If you're not having a bowel movement, then it's going to be in your colon, but that doesn't mean that it's been there for 20 years. It just
Mm.
means you've been constipated for the last 4 days and you need to take a poo, right? So it's like, it's interesting how there's that concept of, like we have to clean and scrape and grind our digestive tract clean as a whistle before we can do anything. But it's not like that. Our body is it's in flux, it's in movement, it's always detoxing, it's always cleansing, and it's always growing. And the microbiome is so important that, it's long as you just shift your diet, you'll eventually
Mm.
shift your microbiome. You'll eventually shift everything. And the fiber that you're taking in is going to slowly start to pull all that, constipated
Yeah.
out. So that's just my perspective on it. And I've always, I hear that every once in a while when people say like, oh, I've got so much impacted, but it's like, well, when's the last time you pooed? Because it's probably not from decades ago. It's probably from the last couple days when you haven't taken a bowel movement. So,
Mm.
there's that too. But yeah, I know it's an interesting world.
Right.
A
I
lot of
think,
theories.
yeah. And I think it's because of this extreme, because it's so easy to eat the highly processed food. Even if you're
Mhm,
vegan, you can be so unhealthy eating.
mhm,
And because they have stretched so far to this extreme of eating unhealthy food, what they want to do is just bounce back
mhm,
to this fasting, water fast or dry fast or juice fast.
mhm,
And, it feels quite like um you feel kind of like a champion going through this,
mhm. Right.
and a lot of
Mhm,
people are praising, oh my god,
mhm,
you've been on this juice fast for a month and 2 months. That's amazing. That's
mhm,
so disciplined. But that to me, it's no longer, I don't feel that's disciplined.
mhm.
Discipline is a
Yes.
consistent long road, not yo-yoing back. And I took a long time. Don't get offended if you're doing juice
Yeah, yeah, for
and you're
sure.
feeling
Mhm,
great. I mean, do whatever feels right for you. For me, I never felt the calling for it, but it's because of this raw vegan cleanse society that community I was in. I felt kind of pressure, and I say, oh, maybe I should try. But what made me feel kind of, is it really that great? Because every time I come off of that cleanse, I cannot digest.
mhm,
Like, it takes a long time. I said, if it's that good, my gut
mhm,
it should be strong more than
mhm,
ever. But it would take me weeks after weeks to
mhm,
get back to the normal self of
mhm,
digestion. So yeah, and eventually I just shied away and I said that's not for me.
mhm,
And I definitely like a lot more fiber in my body. That makes me feel better. And again, I don't want to go back and force
mhm,
up. Oh, I can eat this because I have this juice cleanse or water
mhm,
fast that I can fix. This
mhm.
yo-yo was never good for me, especially with someone who has this eating disorder
Mhm,
background. It's
mhm.
just not healthy. And I think most people have eating disorder, like
Yep.
no matter what diet.
Yeah, disordered relationships with food.
Mm.
And yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that, because I do see like a lot of people, and they feel great when they're on the fast because, they're not eating ultra processed food. They're not eating all that other stuff, and they're eating light, and they feel great, so they praise it and it's amazing and everything. But it is the after, and we hear the stories of the after because they can't express it online because people get mad. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you didn't do it long enough, or you didn't do it good enough, or you didn't do it deep enough, or whatever the reason is." And then that person feels shamed and gaslit and
Mm,
abandoned, and they're not worthy, they did something wrong. And so they come to us and they're like, "Oh, it feels so good to be heard, that my story of how I can't digest now, or my metabolism's messed up, or
mm,
now I have a dysmorphic view of my body because a person loses a lot of weight on a fast, and then they're like, they constantly try to get back to that weight.
mm,
And if they gain weight after a fast, that's toxins. Like, there's a lot of you know yeah, disordered ideas around our
mm,
bodies and the detox thing. But again, like we mentioned, like, you are a detox machine. You don't need to force yourself
mm,
into it. You just need to support your organs because they know exactly what to do. You don't need to do anything specific
mm,
for that. Just give your body the nutrition, and maybe there's some herbs in there, like milk thistle is a raw herb that you could use if you want to help support the liver. There's some herbs that you can use, but I would never suggest, like, restricting or uh,
mm,
doing any kind of those, like, more extreme protocols for
mm,
that. And if anyone chose to do that, obviously I'm not like, I don't want anyone to feel shamed if they do that kind of
mm,
stuff, but to have it be with you and your practitioner, and
mm,
not sharing or blasting all over social media, because it becomes very trendy and everyone wants to do it too, and not everyone should do it. Sometimes it's reserved for very specific cases, and
mm,
in those cases, there also comes with it consequences, right? Like, so yes, if you do something and you get some kind of result, there's other things that happen too, that you might have to be aware of if you're going to do something like that. Like, I had a friend who would do the fast to help with her hormones, but after, she couldn't digest anything. So it's like her hormones were helped, but her digestion was completely out of whack, and her
mm,
metabolism was changed, so she gained weight very easily. Ever since she did her long fast, she cannot keep her weight appropriate because her metabolism was so messed up. Now it's
wow.
like she has such a hard time with that. So there are consequences that can come from that as well. And I
Mm,
think it's important, if you are going to do something like that, to be very well aware of both the positives and the negatives, right? Because, some people do have positives, and it does,
mm,
help some people, but to be aware of that, you might not be the exception to the rule. And what we see is there's usually more negative side effects long after the cleanse. It's not usually like right after, when they break their fast and everything's
right.
glorious, right? It comes after, when you're like, now I can't digest anything, and now my metabolism's all messed up, and now I have these dysmorphic
Mm,
views of my body because I gained 10 pounds after my fast, or whatever it is. So,
mm. Yeah,
yeah,
thank you
it's a
so
deep
much for.
topic, deep topic.
Yeah, we can go on and on. I
Mhm,
really appreciate that you keep talking about this because it's a very important topic. A lot of people also contacted me saying that how it has damaged
mhm,
their gut,
yeah.
and it's very difficult to fix after. So,
Mhm.
last thing to wrap it up, how nourishing your body together as a couple strengthens both your
Ooh.
health and your important. This is deep, like, and I'm in early 50s, and
Mhm,
I am now ever like very serious about my health because I want myself and my husband, both of us, to be healthy.
mhm,
Have a quality of life. We want to keep on laughing and do hiking and enjoy our
mm,
food. And this takes practice. In 20s and 30s, maybe it's easy. You can just eat some processed food, eat out, and you don't have that much consequences.
mhm,
But people after 40s, 50s, that's it's not by luck. It's
mhm,
definitely by consistent work, exercise, good relationship, right? Good, uh, fr- have a good friend like Lisa. She's always happy. She's always there. She will
Mm.
respond to you. Let's not abuse it. But raw vegan bundle is coming up as well.
Mhm.
That's a great way to I was very sensitive. I was on the high raw for a long period of time, and I just at some point when I wanted to just focus on fully raw, I just didn't want to see anything cooked, vegan cooked, because it would trigger me. So the
Mhm.
raw vegan bundle was a great help,
Mm.
because then it's low fat, all raw vegan. It's hosted by Chris and Lisa.
Mhm.
So I trust you guys to be to manage this bundle really well. So that's coming up in early May. We are working very hard towards
Mhm.
that, especially Lisa. Thank you
Oh,
so
yeah.
much.
You're welcome.
Yes. So yeah,
Mhm.
how nourishing your
Mm.
body together as a couple strengthens
Mm.
both your health and your bond.
Yeah, so I like that strengthening your bond. So what Nate and I like to do is we like to make food together. And, when
Mm.
it's like date night or a special night or even Sunday night when we do our hikes and our self-care Sunday, we get in the kitchen together and we make dinner together and we dance and we put some music on, we have some fun, we talk and it's more bonding that way instead of during the week, yeah, one of us will make dinner because the other one's usually working or whatever. But on those special like date nights, it's so nice to be in the kitchen
Mm.
together, doing it together because that strengthens our bonds. We're not so disconnected. Like, oh, it's nice to make your partner dinner for sure, when they're busy, but to do it together is next level awesome. And I love what you said about like, we want to be healthy in our older age. And I think a lot of people in their younger years, like 20s and 30s, they don't think about it a lot because you're invincible, nothing's ever going to happen to you, and I call that the blindness of youth because we're blind. I was blind. I mean, we all, when you as soon as you get older, and I've had so many older people in my life tell me this, well, you'll find out when you're older. And it's like, yeah, now I get it. I wish I could have gotten it back then, but you have the blindness of youth and nothing could ever happen to you. You're never going to get sick. You're never going to have heart disease. And you're like, whatever, I'm just going to eat whatever because I feel great. And yeah, you're going to feel great when you're 20, 25. I mean, some people don't, but most people are, the body can handle a lot of
Mm.
stress and a lot of junk food when you're young. Your body just runs through, but after after 40, it's not the same. It's not the same, especially for women. We go through the perimenopause and the menopause transition. Things change, everything's different. Your metabolism changes, your hormones change, your tolerance changes, like you're
Mm.
a lot of women, I don't feel this myself, but if I wasn't raw, I would feel it. I would feel a lot more irritable. Like things would annoy me like so bad. But
That's
as
so
a raw,
yeah, that's so
yeah,
detrimental for health, the marriage.
yeah,
Lots
exactly.
of divorce going on in that midlife.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's super important. And I like to think of like my old lady body. Like, how do I want to be when I'm 60 or 80? Because it's not far away. 60 is
Mm.
only 14 years for me. Like, that's ridiculous to think about.
Yeah.
60 is only 14 years away. And Nate is going to be 49 in April, so he's almost 50 and it's
Oh,
interesting.
he's looking so good. He looks like this young boy's face. Yeah.
I know, yeah, I think he's just such a happy person, and he's always like he plays a lot,
Mm.
he's just really happy, and I think that lends a lot to his youthfulness,
Mm.
but, we're aware of this, the changes that are gonna happen, and everybody ages. Everybody I know it's interesting when, people will say "Oh, you look like you've aged from when you first started," and I'm like, "But I have, because that was 11 years ago." So, yeah, like, being a raw vegan doesn't eliminate time. Like, we still move through time, and it still changes us, and we still age. We just what I really like what Chef AJ says? She's like, "A healthy diet and lifestyle is like putting on your seatbelt. It's not
Hmm.
to eliminate the chance of being in an accident. But if you are in an accident, it's going to help protect you. Now, you might die in the accident, yeah, but it's a protection. That's all it is. It's a prevention. So, when people hear like, oh, you're a raw vegan, that means you're never going to get sick. You're never going to age. You're never going to change. Your body's never going to change shape. Your hair's going to stay the same color for the rest of your life. They expect these things on
Because
us.
some people do preach, some raw
Yeah.
vegans do preach that
Mhm.
you shouldn't have been having any gray hair or age. So it's not just people who's listening's fault. It's
Mhm.
because some people did, especially in early age, did preach that this is a
Yes.
golden diet that we are not going to age.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, a lot of that's coming from the 20s and 30s, the people in their 20s and
Mm.
30s, because they're young and they're like, oh, I'm never going to age because I'm raw. And, it slows it down for sure. Like we see a lot of older people who are doing a lot better than the average person out there.
Mhm.
Obviously, that, a raw diet is more healthy and we're going to have a better quality of life and we're going to age much better, but at the same time we still age, we're still getting stuff. I told Dr. Karen Dina, when we did our summit interview, I was like, one of the biggest pet peeves I have about being a vegan is the expectations that are placed on us by the general public, because they expect us to live forever. They expect us to be the biggest, bulkiest, most fit people in the world. They expect us to never get sick. They expect us to be able to smoothly float through life with no challenges whatsoever, never age, never get a wrinkle or a spot on our skin or whatever. Like the general public expects that of us because, for some reason, we're choosing something a little bit healthier. So automatically that for some reason makes us invincible. But it's like, but we are is just human beings, just like them. But we align our actions with our ethics. For one, being vegan, we don't want to consume
Mm.
animal
So
products.
important, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So we're aligning our ethics with our actions. We're human beings aligning our ethics with our actions. And we're choosing to eat healthier because we don't want to get the average. I don't want to live an average life, eat an average diet, get an average disease, and die an average death. I don't
And
want that.
average relationship as a
Yeah.
marriage. I mean, most people are
Mhm.
not happy in their
Oh,
marriage. We do
yeah.
not want that.
No, exactly. And so I don't want to be average. I want to make chances for myself that step away from the average. I want to try. And I know that I'm not invincible. I know I'm going to age. I know I'm going to eventually get grays all over. I know these things because it's just part of being human. It just
It's
happens.
also quality of life that
Yes.
I
Yes.
might get cancer, but I feel
Mhm.
so happy with this
Mhm.
diet, and quality of life is incomparable with
Mhm.
standard, foods.
Exactly. I was watching a reel from somebody and they said, a lot of young people will say, they're in their 20s, 30s, and they're like, well, I don't care if I die at 70. I'm just going to still do the things. I don't care if I die at 70. I'll just drop dead or whatever. And it's like, well, but do you realize that you're not actually going to just die at 70? It's going
Yeah,
to
we are
be
not lucky to
yeah,
just drop dead.
it's not gonna be, you're living your life the same way you are, and then all of a sudden you die at 70. It doesn't work that way. It's gonna be 20 to 30 years of a crappy quality of life before you die at 70 if you keep doing the things you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we got to clean up our act, and we have to be graceful with ourselves, and we have to be accepting of the aging process and not shame other people for aging, because I see so many people on raw food pages say things over the years. I've seen this multiple times where they'd be like, oh, you have wrinkles, I thought you were raw, as if a raw foodie is not supposed to have wrinkles from smiling their whole life or being out in the sunshine or like actually living and existing, right? Like it's strange how many expectations are put on a raw foodie or even just a vegan about how they should live and what they should look like. And it's like, but we just don't wanna eat animals, and we just wanna eat healthy food, like,
Mhm.
you know? So that's yeah.
Oh
Sidetrack.
my God. But yeah, it's been
Mm.
over an hour and a half. We can talk for 24 hours or more
Mhm.
nonstop.
I know, I love
with
you, Kiko.
with Lisa. I truly love this healthy marriage podcast with you. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for your generosity. You don't hold back in sharing the vital message. All of your YouTube channel. I mean, if anyone hasn't subscribed to Raw Food Romance Lisa's YouTube channel, you're missing out. I
Mm.
listen to your YouTube now that you do this every single day, right? That I listen to it every time I prepare my salad and
Aw.
smoothies, and then you don't feel lonely.
Yeah.
Lisa is there for you, and connect with people like like her, and yeah, you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, exactly. I know, and we're both here for people. If anyone wants to send us a direct message on Instagram, we are happy to help. That's our whole passion. That's why we do this, because we want to help like brainstorm with you or answer your
Mhm.
questions, or like that's why we do these lives, so we can spread the message and inspire you. Again, don't compare yourself to anybody except you from yesterday. Be better
Yes.
than you from yesterday, right? But you don't have to compare
Mhm.
yourself to anybody who's been raw for a decade or raw for a year or raw for 30 years. It doesn't matter. Just do you and focus where you're at and work on your microbiome and get your blood tests and choose supplements based on your body, do all of that. So, yeah. Thank
And
you, Kiko.
yeah, thank you, Lisa. And we've
Mhm.
got 4 heard.
Oh, it's
Thank
from
you
Noi.
so
Lovely
much,
Noi. Yeah, she's
Noi.
sweet. We love her.
Oh, yeah, in the community, in your raw
Mhm.
vegan community. That's wonderful. Okay, well, thank you so much. I hope that this podcast helped many people, and we'll be back again hopefully next
Yes.
month, right?
Yes,
Yes.
for
So,
sure. We'll have another topic.
yeah, okay, always. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks,
Alright.